Alright, so we continue on working on our footsteps. So we'll go into the project settings. This is one little thing we forgot to do last time. So we search for audio, and we have to plug in our default classes from last time. Yeah, again, just forgot to do this. But the rest of this episode is going to be strictly functionality based. So no more making different sound classes and that kind of stuff. Alright, so that's all set. Now we can start creating our classes. And this is going to be that audio manager component that I talked about last time. So go into plugins, CCS core, plugins, and this is a custom component. A lot of people would put this functionality right on the character, but as I keep saying over and over again, we just keep making actor components and putting it on the character. So audio manager comp CCS, it just does a better job of not making the character file really crowded. And I'll skip ahead until this gets created. So now we need to go make the HSS game version. So you can see our CCS core version right there. And we'll go into HSS game and make an audio folder here as well. And we'll call it audio manager comp HSS. Just like we've been doing with everything else. And get rid of that my at the beginning. They always sneak that in there. And in the audio folder. And again, I'm going to skip ahead until this component is created, and then we can get into filling these out. And now we're at Visual Studio, Audio Manager Comp, CCS.h, and I just pasted in a whole bunch of code, and as always, don't panic, I'm going to go line by line. Okay, we'll zoom in a little bit. And as you can see in that description, this is basically just to play audio for the character. So for now, all it's going to do is play footsteps, but when we have other audio that needs to be played, this is where we're going to put it. And get rid of that creator's initial development part. I accidentally kept that in there. So just update it to hide, seek, survive initial development in the version tag. And then also don't forget to put in that include for sound cue, because your project won't compile if you don't have that. And then get those forward declarations in there as well. And alright, so down in the public section, we have our constructor. Nothing interesting for now, it just disables tick. And then we have the tick function that is disabled to begin with. And we put it in that Unreal built-in functions public region like we keep doing. And then we have the play sound functions, which has to be public because we need to call this from blueprints. Hence the blueprint callable macro up there. And this is a play footstep sound function. So this is going to be called from the animation blueprint to play our various footstep sounds. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to figure out what physical material the character is standing on and play the appropriate footstep sound from a map that we're going to define later down. And then we just have the begin play, basically same thing we've been doing. And then here we have our protected helper functions. And this is going to give us the physical surface that the character is standing on. And it's going to be called by that play footstep sound function as well. And it'll give us an enum that will map to one of our physical surfaces that we defined in the project settings in the last episode. And then we get into our get and check reference functions. And the first one we have there is the owning character. So nothing really interesting, just what we've been doing. And then we have another get and check references for character movement ref. So nothing interesting. And then we have our sound cues here. So this is that map I was talking about. And I don't think we've gone over type maps yet. But basically, it is a way to store variables where they can have a key that you can search for, and then actually what you're searching for. So here we have physical surface is the key, and the sound is the thing that we're searching for. And then here we have some default volume multipliers, crouching volume multiplier, low end pitch, and high end pitch. And crouching is going to be softer, obviously, than when we're walking. And then low and high pitch just basically helps us make it seem like those 4 footstep files we have are way more than that. And then we have references to the owning character and the character movement. And then we're all set with the .h, and we'll move into the CPP. And again, whole bunch of code for us to go over. So make sure you grab those includes up there and have those in there. So constructor, all we're doing is turning off tick. Tick, all we're doing is calling our parents' version. And now we have the first part of play footstep sound. And first, we're just doing our get and check to make sure we have those references. Then we declare a volume multiplier. And then next, we need to basically check if the character is crouching. And if they are, then we swap that multiplier over to the crouching volume multiplier. And if not, just leave it default. And then that next line randomly gets a pitch multiplier, which again is going to disguise the footstep sounds into making it seem like we have way more sound values than we do. And then next, we have the second part, and we are using that get physical surface function to get the physical surface. And then we're checking if the map does not contain that surface. So for some reason we forgot to set it. And if we hit that condition, then we check if it has the default surface. And if it does, we play the footstep sound. And then if it gets past that check, then we're playing the footstep sound for the current surface. And just take note of all those null checks I'm doing there, because again, if we are pointing to a null pointer, it is going to crash the engine. And then begin play, all we're doing is playing the parent's version. Then here, we are first get and checking the character, and if not, we're just going to return the default surface, because then we are basically doing a collision check from the character through the ground, and we're ignoring the character that we're calling the check for. And this is very important. We need that B return physical material to true, or else it's just going to be null every time. And then after that, we check if we got a valid hit. We check if we got a physical material. And then if not, we get the default material. And if we did, then we return the surface type from the material that we got. And then down here, we just have our get and check, so same as we've been doing. Alright, then we move into the HSS version, and all we're doing in here is fixing up the spacing and then swapping in that description. So basically just say it derives from the CCS version, it isn't doing anything yet. And then here's where I catch the creators tag is still in there. So update that real quick, and then I'll go back and update the other one as well. And once we're done with that, we're going to move into the .cpp. And for this, we don't have to do anything, just get rid of that space and move on. And then next, we need to go to our CCS core build.cs, because we need to add another private dependency module name to avoid our engine from crashing. And we want to put physics core in there. That's the important one we need to add, because it contains everything having to do with the physical materials. Okay, so now we're in the character, and the first thing we need to change is we need to forward declare our uAudio manager comp CCS. And then we'll scroll down here and we'll get a getter for our audio manager comp. So nothing too interesting there. All we're doing is just getting the audio manager comp. No big deal. And then we'll hop down here to our components section where you see I'm creating our audio manager component. And we're going to set that to be null pointer by default. And we can just copy that uProperty tag from the previous ones because we want all our components to be the same. And from there, we'll move over to the character.cpp. And the only thing we need to do in here is actually create the audio manager component down here at the bottom of the constructor, just right next to where you created your input comp. And it's the exact same notation as well. And we are also going to need to throw in an include for this, or else it's not going to compile. So we'll do that right after this. Okay. and I forgot the text macro, so we'll throw that in there. It doesn't really matter, but just good to do. And as promised, we're typing in that include, so audio manager, CCS, just like that. And then we'll move on to the character hss.cpp, because just like these other components, we need to set the default object class to the HSS version, so that this way the changes we make in the HSS version actually get applied to the HSS character. So we'll put that line in there, and then we'll throw the include in, same as last time, except for the HSS instead of CCS. And we're looking good. And now last one, we'll hop over to the anim instance.h, and we need to put our forward declaration of audio manager comp in there. And then we'll jump down here to our get and check and add one for our audio manager component reference. So pretty straightforward there. And now we have the reference to our audio manager comp CCS. And notice that it looks a lot different than the other ones because we need to access this in blueprints. Because we need to call the play footstep sounds function from our animation blueprint. So that's why we're making it blueprint read only and accessible in blueprints in general. Okay, so we're all set in here. Now we'll move over to the .cpp. And as you can see, the first thing we need to do in here is add our include. So that's looking good. And now we're going to go down to this native initialize animation, and we're going to get and check these references up there to make sure we have everything right when our animation initializes. And that is going to be very critical because we need to make sure we have our get and check for the audio manager comp firing. And speaking of that, there it is. So very standard stuff, just getting the character and then using the getter from the character to grab it. And then we're all good here and we can build. And as always, I'll skip ahead until that's done, and then we'll open up the engine as well. And now that we're in here, we need to go to our animation blueprint and actually call those notify functions. So animations, human, and we want that third person one, that's the parent blueprint class. And these comments are looking a little sloppy. I'll make them a little bit bigger and slide that one down a bit. Compile, save, and we need to check this out. And we'll go into our event graph, and we'll right click and search for notify, and we should have that left foot notify, should be there. So click that, and it'll make an event that will fire when that happens. And then we want to make another notify function for the right foot. So we have that, and now we're going to get into actually hooking this up to our play footstep function. So the first thing we need to do is check if we need third person, because we only want this firing if we need the third person. So we don't want it firing on both blueprints, because that wouldn't make any sense. So then we want to do get audio manager comp CCS, and then we check if it's valid. Okay, looking good. And we'll make a little bit more space. And then we'll call our play footstep sound. And we'll drag that over there. And then just click on the little line to make a reroute node to make it look a little better. And then we'll highlight everything, press C to comment. And then we'll just say if our footstep notify is triggered, then we'll call our play footstep sound function. So now we need to navigate to our character blueprint because we need to input the values for that map of the actual footstep sounds. Okay, so we go in here, go to our audio manager comp, and there's our sound map, and we're just going to keep adding. And by the way, it won't let you add any more if you're on the default. So you have to just keep switching it every time. Kind of annoying, I know, but what are you going to do? Alright, so we'll keep going. And then after this, we're just going to grab our assets and just throw them in there. And then we'll be ready to test. But yeah, you can see our multipliers down there as well are all there waiting for us if we need to change them. And the good thing about having variables like that, blueprint accessible, is we can very quickly change them for testing, etc. For instance, I had the crouching volume multiplier at zero point 0.5 initially, and I was able to tweak it really quickly and find that zero point 0.2 was a better value. So that was pretty great. All right, so we'll save. Now we'll navigate to our queues and we'll start swapping them in. And I'll show the first one, but I'm going to skip ahead until the rest of them are done. Okay, so we'll just drag them in, and that's all you have to do. And notice that I use dirt for default, so make sure you do that as well. And we'll jump into testing real quick. And yeah, you can see our characters walking around and the dirt footsteps are playing because the floor is set as the default physical material. So just to show you where it is, we're going to switch it to the wood physical material so we can hear the different footstep sounds. And now our character is walking around and we hear the wood footstep sounds playing, so that all worked. And now that he's crouching, see that the volume is way less. So that's that volume multiplier working. And at this point, I think we're good to call it a day. So we're going to speed run through the packaging and review process. Alright, so we'll go to Windows, Package Project, delete the old one, blank out the name so it autofills. We're done packaging, start the package project. Looking pretty good, same as when it wasn't packaged, so that's a good sign. Then we'll throw the task into review, and we'll look at perforce, and I'm going to spend a little bit longer on perforce than normal, because we have a whole bunch of different files, and I want you guys to be able to follow along and make sure yours matches. So make sure you have all the files, and if not, add them manually like we've done before. And we'll send that on its way, throw this into done, and we're all set. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.